Hello, my APUS history friends. I hope you are doing well. Just wanted to record a quick recap video for what we had done this week. I know one day I was out, but I do want to get through this because you do have a quiz on Monday, and this will be good quiz review to combine with the other review video I posted, as well as, what we did this week. So anyways, we are moving into the American Revolution. We saw a lot of the causes, a couple more causes to go here, such as the First Continental Congress. This one is definitely less significant than the Second Continental Congress. Basically, what you get here is the Intolerable Acts are happening in Massachusetts. People are afraid what's happening in Boston is going to happen to the rest of the colonies. So the colonies all get together and basically say, we're going to work together against the British here, in economic, political action. We're going to work as a team. One of the things they do as a team is send out something called the Declaration of Rights. This basically just says that, the colonists are Englishmen, they will follow English law, but also by English law, they deserve representation in Parliament. So if they're willing to get representation, the Americans will essentially back down. We do this a couple times, not only with the Declaration of Rights at the First Continental Congress, but at the Second Continental Congress as well. We send something called the Olive Branch Petition that basically says, hey, England, look, we are English citizens. We'll follow English law, but you got to give us something here. Give us some representation in Congress. They again say no, which then leads to the Declaration of Independence. But we'll get there in a second. Anyways, in between the First Continental Congress and the Second Continental Congress, we have a couple big things. Lexington and Concord, the first battle of the American Revolution, where the British are going to leave from Boston and try to get military supplies like gunpowder out of our stores at Lexington and Concord. The Americans are able to fight the British off and then attack them all the way back to Boston. It's a big spark for the Americans because we do actually end up winning these first couple battles, which, inspires people to join. But the bigger inspiration is definitely Common Sense by Thomas Paine, which basically makes an Enlightenment rationalist argument of why the Americans should become independent. All those quotes that we looked at from Thomas Paine. It's definitely a star, exclamation point. It's an important term to know. This then leads us to the Second Continental Congress. This is the all-star game. This is the team that you think of when you think of the Founding Fathers. You think of, George Washington and Ben Franklin and Thomas Jefferson and John Hancock and John Adams and all of those guys. That's the Second Continental Congress. A couple things come out of this. We pick Washington as our leader. Makes sense, right? Not only is the guy physically imposing, he's super wealthy. He also has a lot of military experience. So it was an obvious pick. He's also from Virginia, which was the most important state at the time economically. We'll get into that, a little post American Revolution, which colonies were really important in the founding of the country. But Virginia is big. So Virginia, it helps to have them on your side. We also, send the Olive Branch Petition, which I mentioned, to which England says no. Again, you can use that as an argument of the Americans tried to have peace. So if you get a question that's like, how valid are the accusations against England in the Declaration of Independence? Well, we tried. We sent the Olive Branch Petition, which then leads us to the Declaration of Independence, written by Thomas Jefferson and edited by others. But basically with the preamble, the first paragraph or so, listing out Enlightenment rationalist reasons, logical reasons why America should break up with England, and then goes through a whole list of grievances, a whole bunch of things that are listed out against King George III in England as to why the Americans are declaring their independence. Anyways, in the war, we don't have a ton in terms of things to remember. The overall American strategy is to wait the war out as long as possible. England's already in debt from the French and Indian War, the 7 Years' War. They're also fighting other wars right now, one with France and one in the Caribbean. So they have a lot of debt caused by war. So if you can make the war last a long time, England will eventually spend itself into oblivion. England also has a really long supply line. They're far from home. The Americans are defending their farms. We use guerrilla tactics such as ambushes and taking out leadership in battles to confuse the English. We also, desperately need an alliance with France, which we're going to get in the Battle of Saratoga. Saratoga is quite an important one for you to know, I would say. Anyways, I don't want this conception to go that like all these Americans were all gung-ho about the rebellion. About a third of Americans were loyalists. They were Tories. So it's a good counter-argument if you got a question that was like, what demonstrates that not all Americans were on board with the American Revolution? Well, a third of the population is still loyal to the king. Again, they're loyalists or Tories or what they're called. So anywho, when we did the sub work, we had a list of important battles and things for you to know. One of those battles is the Battle of Trenton, which basically is big inspiration for the Americans that weren't doing so well. Washington crosses the Delaware River and destroys this group known as the Hessians, which are mercenaries for the British. They're hired soldiers for the British Army. This is a big win, mentally for us. Other big ones, the winter at Valley Forge, which we're able to survive, which is quite brutal, but is famously quite brutal. America's able to get through it. And also, Saratoga, which I had mentioned, it's huge because it gets the French on our team. They finally sign up, and we need their Navy. Lastly, the Battle of Yorktown is one you had to know because it's the last battle of the American War, the American Revolutionary War. And really is the nail in the coffin for the British. Lastly, we also covered women in the American Revolution. The number one impact of women in the Revolution for sure is homespun goods. The fact that they're making supplies that we don't have to buy from the British is big. We need the stuff, / we don't want to give money to England, so easy decision there. We also looked at women such as Deborah Sampson, Molly Pitcher, Sybil Ludington, and Abigail Adams, who has a very famous quote, remember the ladies. She says that to her husband when he's going to make government documents, Articles of Confederation, Constitution, but they do forget the ladies, because not until 1920, ladies, until you can vote. So, anywho, that was just a quick recap. From here in class, we are going to look at the lasting impacts of the American Revolution, then head over to our founding documents. We're going to take a look at the Articles of Confederation and Constitution. Anyways, I hope you have a great weekend. Remember, quiz on Monday, and I'll talk to you later.